Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
Steve the Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Wow, you know, occasionally,
sometimes,
news breaks before the show.
every now and then.
And when I saw Jeff Merrick tweet this morning, there's movement in Philly, I thought maybe they made a post-trade deadline trade, because it's still possible post-trade deadline to make a trade.
I thought perhaps Kevin Hayes to Columbus.
Because the trade deadline, if you don't know, is just, are you eligible for the playoffs?
Yeah, you're allowed to make trades after the deadline. It's just, Kevin Hayes, if he were to be traded to the Blue Jackets, wouldn't be eligible to play in the playoffs. One, because it was after the deadline. Two, because it would be to the Blue Jackets.
Yeah. But that's not what happened.
Oh.
Somebody that Steve has been on for years. And it actually surprised Jesse. You remember the episode where Steve brought it up for the first time, and the take started with the Minnesota Wild caused the last lockout.
Yeah, you were so upset.
That happened like when we were recording it like Rogers.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
5 years ago, maybe. And everybody was like, and Steve went in, and Minnesota Wild fans were like, what did we ever do to you, man?
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with the Minnesota Wild themselves.
Right.
It had everything to do with their ownership.
And
Chuck Fletcher being the vessel that ownership used to murder the NHL and usher it into a lockout.
And this morning
what happens when you earn your way to the top through hard work.
That's right.
Because your first job is something you got because of your resume.
Wunderkind. And something entry level, like assistant GM to the Penguins.
Panthers.
Whatever.
Listen, Chuck Fletcher was let go this morning. It's funny. I've never seen Philadelphia Flyers fans and New York Rangers fans happy about the same thing at the same time. And yet here we are.
Rangers fans were excited.
Rangers fans are loving it just because something bad has happened to Philadelphia fans.
Oh, okay,
and Philadelphia fans are happy because, that's over. But I don't know that it is over.
Oh,
I don't know that it is over, because you got to remember something. The same group that hired Chuck Fletcher will hire the next guy.
And push him around into doing their dumbass bidding. So, I don't know.
So
unless they let him do his fucking job.
Well, so we're going to get into that. But first, it's Oscar weekend, so let's get into You Can Bet That with my old boss, Terry Hart.
You Can Bet That with David Bastel. Brought to you by Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make a play. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
All right, so because it's Oscars weekend, we're making Dave take a backseat to somebody who, believe it or not, this is my former boss. Her name is Terry Hart, and she is a movie fanatic setting us up for the Oscars. Terry, welcome to the SDP. We're so happy to have you on.
Was I your boss, really?
Yeah, you were my boss at Entertainment City, Breakfast Television.
I thought I was just like your encouragement.
Well, you were that too, and honestly, one of the most instructive people I've ever worked with. So any of the entertainment reporting I did was really Terry, and Terry knows movies. You watch what, 200 movies a year, something like that? Yeah.
Oh, probably more than that. I mean, I probably watch a movie a day, and then during the Toronto International Film Festival, I watch like 3, 4, sometimes 5 movies a day. I spend a lot of time in the dark.
There it is.
Yeah. she watches all the movies that CJ doesn't.
That's right. Because CJ watches 0 movies.
Yeah.
So Terry, Academy Awards this weekend. We're going to avoid the whole slap conversation, which I'm thrilled about because I'm done. So what?
Same, Adam. Same.
If we're talking about Sports Interaction, we're talking about movies that you want to put something on, or categories you want to put something on. What are the categories that are as close to a guaranteed shot as they come?
So I would say the guaranteed shots are 3, and their best picture, it is the year for Everything Everywhere All at Once. If it doesn't win, there will be audible gasps and probably some faints. I think it's a real slam dunk for the Daniels, the co-directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Some people are like suggesting Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans just because he's got such legacy in Hollywood. I don't think there's a chance. I think that Daniel Kwan and Dan Shiner, who directed Everything Everywhere All at Once, there's so much love for them, and the fact that they came from really indie world to this, made this kind of, I don't know if you guys have seen EEAAO. Yeah, that's it. But it's bonkers, right? Like it's a bonkers movie that's been embraced by the mainstream. Hollywood loves that story. And I would say Ke Huy Quan, who stars in Everything Everywhere All at Once, is a lock for Best Supporting Actor. And I'm for it. I can't wait for his speech. It's going to be inspiring. He's a great comeback story in Hollywood. So those three are locks.
Okay.
So the one thing that worries me is you mentioned how like everything is this out there kind of movie. It's a sci-fi film. Like it's based in like alternate realities and different worlds and metaverses and all that stuff. And the traditional Oscar voters never go for that kind of stuff. And All Quiet on the Western Front is there in the category as well. And that movie has literally won this award before. The 1930 version won Best Picture.
That's right.
And it worries me that there's too many old voters still in the Oscars, and it might ruin this moment that should be for everything. That should be everything's year. And I'm afraid they might ruin it.
Jesse, are you a Hollywood insider? That I didn't know about?
I care about this stuff every time it comes around every year.
Because I'm telling you, if there is going to be a surprise across the board, it's going to mirror the surprise of the actual nominations. When All Quiet on the Western Front scored 9 nominations, including Best International Film and Best Picture. When you see a movie cross both of those categories, it speaks to how many people that movie has really touched. Of course, this is a remake. You say it's won the category back in the 1930s. This is a remake of a World War I film that is having terrifying and properly upsetting correlations to what's happening now with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the banality of war. And you can draw that line also through the Banshees of Inisherin, which is about two best friends. One decides not to talk to the other the next day, which is really about an allegory for war and how people turn on each other for reasons that they can't even explain. And certainly that happened in Ireland during the Troubles. So we've got a bit of a theme going on there. And yeah, I mean, Jesse, I don't think it's going to happen. I just think there's been too much love for Everything Everywhere. The largest voting population of the Academy are actors, and we've seen them sweep guilds. We've seen them, like, which are the benchmarks. So, hey, I love a surprise as much as the next guy, but I do think it's EEAAO's year. I gotta think about it.
You got that one.
Okay, so the categories that I think a lot of people are interested in is obviously Brendan Fraser made a huge comeback this year. Beloved online. Are the I guess Academy voters going to love him the same way? Is he going to win Best Actor?
I would say this might be the tightest race, the Best Actor race, between Brendan Fraser in The Whale and the other one is Austin Butler in Elvis. And both of them have their emotional strengths. As you said, Adam, Brendan Fraser being the comeback kid, Austin Butler playing Elvis when Elvis's daughter just died this year. So there's a lot of emotion around both of these. Both of them also have some drawbacks. A lot of people are upset about the fat suit that Brendan Fraser sports to play Charlie, the character he plays in The Whale. Full transparency, I hated The Whale with the white hot passion of a million suns.
Oh, you didn't like the movie?
And no, I hated it.
Oh, wow.
I think it's terrible. Yeah, I think it's mean. I think it's mean and lacking any empathy, and I think it's dangerous. But I'm in the minority there, so that's fine. That's fine.
That's why we bring you on, though. You've got defined opinions on this stuff.
Yeah, you hate The Whale, and I hated Elvis. Elvis was awful. And like Austin Butler on his whole media tour, he's turned into Elvis. Like he does the accent just in his interviews, and it's gotten really annoying.
Jesse, I think you and I should hang out more.
Everybody says that about Jesse. Everybody.
Because here's what I say about Elvis. I didn't love the movie. I thought the Tom Hanks character was a bit of a disaster. He plays Colonel Parker, who was awful to Elvis and really kind of was the architect of Elvis's demise, I would suggest. But Austin Butler playing Elvis delivered. I mean, I wasn't around for Elvis. I'm old. I'm not that old. And I just felt like I was really watching those kind of iconic performances. And I just think that one of the reasons that the movie itself didn't succeed so well is Baz Luhrmann, who directed it, had this performance by Austin that he couldn't cut away from to actually have the movie work better.
So much gyrating.
So much.
Baz, like, pull the camera away from his crotch, please.
No. Now you've made me change my mind, Jesse. We shouldn't hang out more.
Amazing. And Best Actress, what do you think?
This is a bit tight. I think it's going to be Michelle Yeoh. Again, the emotional. She's a 60-year-old woman. This is not a comeback for her. She's been steadily working, but she probably should have been nominated and won 25 years ago for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Finally, she's getting her flowers. But she is up against Cate Blanchett, who is her closest competition for a movie called Tar. Kate's already run a couple times. She's been nominated like 8 times. She's going to be back there. She is going to be like the Meryl Streep of this generation. She gets cast in the movies that go on to win Oscars. That's what Cate Blanchett does. She does it. Kate Winslet does it. Nicole Kidman does it. That's just their brand of an actor. So I really hope it is Michelle Yeoh. And I think a lot of people will be really, really pissed off if it's not.
Okay. All right. Well, Terry Hart, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And if you're making your picks, obviously, listen to Terry. Trust me on this one. She knows it like nobody else. Or you can listen to Jesse, too, I guess.
I think we agreed on most of it.
Terry, thanks so much for joining us.
Jesse knows a thing or two.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Terry.
Steve, you said nothing. Steve said nothing.
I haven't seen
Steve, go
any
see a
of these,
movie.
so I need to see them.
The Philadelphia Flyers this morning. Actually, I'll read from Gianna Hahn and Olivia Reiner, who write for the Inquirer, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Less than a week after the trade deadline, key point. The Flyers have decided to take an affirmative step in a new direction, firing Chuck Fletcher today. Hired December 3rd, 2018, Fletcher had been with the organization for 4 years. Former Flyer Danny Briere will take over on an interim basis. Now, I want to go through the season.
The assistant, right?
What's that? He was the assistant. Yes.
Special advisor to the... He had one of those goofy Dwight Schrute titles.
Oh, yeah? I thought he was... Oh, wow.
Since 2018, when he took over, the Flyers have finished above 6th in the Metropolitan one time.
And they were tanking exactly 0 of those seasons.
That's right. So they finished...
were trying to win the whole time.
In 2018, 2019, they finished 27th in the league. Sorry, 22nd in the league. In 1920, 6th in the league. 2021, 19th. And this year... last year they were 29th. This year, pretty close to it. So it's been pretty ugly with the exception of the round 2 loss in 2019-2020, which I have to be honest,
that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Fucking
They were better. They were good that year, though.
I was high on the team.
They were 4th in the
That was
East.
the bubble year, right?
That was a bubble year.
We're talking the
But
goofy...
they did finish 4th in the East that year.
So the way it happened, because I remember, they were one of the hottest teams in the NHL heading into the stoppage.
Yeah.
Then the stoppage happened, and they, over the next 6 months or whatever, lost a little bit of momentum. And then they went into the playoffs. They won the qualifying round.
Won the qualifying round in the first round. They almost lost to Montreal in the qualifier, or in the first round. I remember that. Montreal had them because they were like, there was a big thing for Claude Julien, remember?
Yeah. I don't remember who they beat, but they won.
Okay.
They won, and they did well.
And then
they were
lose
on the up.
And then they lose in the first round. Those bubble
Second
playoffs?
round.
Second round. Oh, so they won a round.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think they did. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they were playing Montreal because
All
Montreal
right.
made it through the qualifier, and then they played Montreal, and then Montreal almost beat them, I think.
Yeah. Nick Suzuki did that tap.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Scored a goal and
I
then
do remember that.
patted Carter Hart on the head.
And that was Carter Hart's like big coming out year as well.
Yeah,
right? Like, it was
yeah.
like when he was unbelievable that year.
Carter Hart had good 1.5 seasons.
And everybody was like, well, they made the right move. They fired Ron Hextall, which speaking of Pennsylvania teams that are frustrated, fired Ron Hextall and let Carter Hart play. But how's he been since? And how's it been since?
He's been okay.
How's it been?
He's been better. Carter Hart's been better this season than last, but how's it been for the Flyers? Poo. It's been poo. And from the moment that guy was hired, I said it would be poo. And here it is being poo. Why? What? I think I said it from the moment he was hired. He is who you hire when you want to have a dartboard. When you own a hockey team and you want a dartboard who will listen to all your decisions and take all the heat for them. That's all he is. If you need a human shield, that is your man. I'm not going to celebrate the fact that he was fired because I don't really think it means anything for Philadelphia Flyers fans.
Wow. You don't think it means anything?
Well, if the guy wasn't making any decisions in the first place, what's the difference? If there's going to be a change for the Philadelphia Flyers, it has to come from they're going to treat Danny Briere differently. I guess we'll see. How that goes. Or are they going to be like, you know what? Trade real assets for Rasmus actual Ristolainen. Trade real assets for Tony, honest to goodness, D'Angelo. Trade assets and extend him. And when a guy gets hurt, you throw up your hands and you go, well, gosh, I didn't anticipate a professional hockey player would get hurt. So instead of doing anything to fix it, I'm just going to sit on my hands and feel sorry for myself. And. It just continues. And I'm going to try to trade this guy. And when I don't trade him, I'll talk about an app for some reason. And I'll talk about how it's hard to that John Tortorella quote. Those John Tortorella quotes with Chuck Fletcher were pathetic.
You mean where he defended him?
Yeah, we talked about it on Monday, where he comes out and says, well, he tried to trade him, and you don't think he tried?
John.
I heard those
What
quotes.
happened to you? Depending on who you ask, nothing happened to John Tortorella. He was always this guy.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him give his players the same leeway that he gives Chuck Fletcher.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I was going to bench Kevin Hayes, but gosh darn it, he tries. I was going to bench Joel Farabee, but you know what? Gosh, he tried so hard. You know that play where he didn't get the puck out and I asked him to get the puck out? Well, he tried to get the puck out, though. So you know what? Here's a candy cane and a cookie. And what the fuck? Like John Tortorella, the bootlicker. Like I never thought I would have seen the day. Like, what is this? And you know what? I just want it to be valid criticism. When people criticize the job Chuck Fletcher does, I want it to be valid criticism. He tried. Within days, he is fired. Come on, John. Here you go. Here's your chance. Shit on ownership. Shit on everyone who made this decision, John. Come on. None of the criticism was valid. You're such a fucking media critic. Come on. Here we go. Criticize your employer there, John. Here we go. I'm sick of this guy. And again, now I'm talking about John.
Yeah, well,
do you see what a good job the Flyers are doing? All they do is hire dartboards. Imagine if they actually focus on trying to win some hockey games. They might actually do it.
Since
they're this good at achieving their goals.
For the last 10 years, and we're going to assume the Flyers missed the playoffs this year. I don't know if they're mathematically eliminated.
It's pretty tough.
They came off of a Stanley Cup final loss in 09-10, two conference final losses in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then since 2012-2013, which is 10 years ago, they have qualified for the playoffs 4 times.
Damn.
They have won 1 round, which is more than the Leafs.
Yes, it is.
And people let us know. I don't think the fans
Is that your bar?
I don't think
Better
the
than the
fans
Leafs?
here are getting enough credit for what's happened in the last 2 weeks here with the Flyers.
Why is that?
What happened is the JVR non-trade seems to be like the straw that broke the camel's back with everything that kind of came out of that, because we had the non-trade and then we had the fans go crazy and be like, why wasn't he traded?
They booed him.
And he had to
his
respond
face.
to that because right after the trade deadline, they had the season ticket holder meeting. And out of that, we got these wild videos. We got the booing. And then we got the one about him talking about the app that you briefly mentioned, where he says there's an app that we have in our front office that shows the trade value of things. And, you plug it in and the trades weren't worth it and all that nonsense.
Hold on. So, because the quote is, we didn't get a legitimate offer for JVR. Yeah. So, Jesse,
eat it.
Are you saying that the legitimate offer quote is the ultimate reason why Chuck Fletcher sucks?
Yeah, well, the whole saga that's taken place in the last week, I think ownership and Dave Scott, the guy who did the press conference today, who's in charge of firing him, I think they realized we got somebody here who's incompetent because of probably what we're telling him to do, but they probably don't realize that part.
Well, you can't fire the owner. They own it.
Exactly. So I think they looked at Chuck Fletcher and the media storm that came out of his awful GMing. That's what all these things came out of, just him doing a bad job. And they're like, okay, we're done here. We're throwing up our hands. We're going to make this decision a week out of the trade deadline. And that's on the fans. All those things were a result of fan pressure, fan leak videos out of the season ticket holder. It's the season ticket holders and the Flyers fans who got him fired here. And kudos to them because he did an awful job.
Doing the Flyers job for them. This is all on the fans. It's the fans doing the owner's job for them. It's doing everyone in hockey job. All the four dudes who we didn't know their names. Remember that last week? We're like, who are the other people in hockey ops besides Chuck Fletcher?
We don't know.
And it's dartboard followed by four invisible men. Which, again, I said from the moment the dude was hired, this is what he does. So, in terms of what we knew Chuck Fletcher was, heading into his Flyers tenure.
What did we know?
What we knew is he's really good at spending ownership's money when he's told to. That's what he did in Minnesota. And he won as many rounds in Minnesota, in his tenure in Minnesota, as he did in Philadelphia. One. He's who you hire when you want to spend an enormous amount of money on one playoff round win in half a decade's time. That's the brand, right? So he did his job exactly as advertised. Exactly as advertised. I don't know why anyone expected anything different. Trades that don't make any sense, non-trades that don't make any sense. I kind of feel bad for the guy, honestly.
Do you?
Yeah. Why
do you feel bad for him?
I don't want to sound like I'm backtracking because I don't think he's allowed to do his fucking job.
You don't think he's allowed to, or you think he allows... Because here's the thing. Any executive that works at that position is going to get questioned, pushed, and questioned again, and grilled by ownership on everything. That's part of the job, right? When we say the ownership should stay out of the trades themselves, we don't mean that the owner shouldn't question it. It's their property.
Yeah.
They can do what they want. It's their organization.
Sure. But
you're saying that we have no idea what kind of general manager Chuck Fletcher really is, because the owners work through him. Yeah, and what I would say to that is, I think we know exactly what kind of a general manager Chuck Fletcher is. Because if you don't stand for something, whether that's on the air or professionally, then you have revealed that you're nothing. That you're really not qualified anyway.
God damn.
Is that... Well, what part of that's not true? Well, so I don't mean to diminish him, the person, but professionally, if you look at the history here, there's no success.
He's probably maybe a good day-to-day operations guy.
Probably really well liked.
Probably really well
connected in hockey.
I've heard good things.
Of course,
good things about Chuck Fletcher.
This is not about who he is. This is about who he is professionally.
Right.
And what can you say? Okay, as much as we give Kyle Dubas shit. And we also praise Kyle Dubas. And everybody around the league, gives Kyle Dubas and the Leafs shit. You know what Kyle Dubas is about. You know certain characteristics of Kyle Dubas' GM personality.
He has a brand.
His brand is, if I have a first round pick, I'm trading it for 2 seconds. If I can find a value add nobody that no one's ever heard of, like David Kampf, I'm signing him to 2 years. And look at that. It works out most of the time.
That was a weird one.
There are things with Kyle Dubas where you're like, I know this is his characteristic, right? With Jarmo Kekalainen, he's going to give RFAs a really fucking hard time. He's going to blow you away occasionally with some weird trade or signing like Line and Gaudreau, and his teams rarely score very much.
He's kind of like Mark Bergevin for teams that never win.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Really good trades, really bad ones.
But even Marc Bergevin, you knew his logic was completely flawed, but you knew what Marc Bergevin was about. Tell me what Chuck Fletcher's about. Tell me what would characterize Chuck Fletcher, the GM, if you were to make him into a video game character?
Well, let's go back. And this isn't to praise Ron Hextall because his job in Pittsburgh has been pretty come-see, come-saw. But what was he canned for? He was canned because people above him said, Ron, we want you to do this.
Play Carter Hart.
He didn't do it, so they fired him. And who'd they bring in?
Chuck Fletcher.
Yes or no, sir. They brought in yes or no, sir. And then it was half a decade of yes or no, sir. None of us should be surprised.
Bobby Clark's still involved in the Flyers organization,
Of
isn't
course
he?
he is.
So
I wanted to bring that up because I think that's where we get not some answers, but even some more questions about like, okay, who's running the show here? Because
where's this podcast appearance there, Bobby? Hey, Ron did such a shit job there, Bobby. Let's talk about Chuck Fletcher there, Bobby.
let's contextualize that.
Yeah.
What do you, Jesse, Steve, what do you guys, because I know what you're thinking, but
Yeah.
people listening may not have caught that podcast interview. Tell us about it. What did Bobby Clark say about Ron Hextall?
Here, I sort of interrupted your point.
Yeah.
Do you wanna go and then I'll explain?
I was just saying the senior advisors there in Philadelphia, Paul Holmgren, Bob Clark, Bill Barber, Dean Lombardi.
Paul Holmgren was the general manager for Philly, and he was also for the Wild, wasn't he? Was he not?
I don't remember the Wild, but definitely Philly, yeah.
And he was kicked upstairs.
I don't know. He's still there. Generally, the guys who get kicked upstairs don't stay upstairs very long.
I don't know his resume.
I'm looking it up.
Anyway,
look it
so
up.
you got those guys as your senior advisors, and I think about situations like in Edmonton where all the 80s guys are employed as advisors there, and a lot of the decisions that are being made are just, hey, ask the guys who have the cup rings. And
They've
what
kind of
they're
gotten
doing.
away from that a bit.
They have lately,
Yes.
but we like to talk about that. Like 2-ish years ago was when it was the big story about that. And situation in Philly where we kind of know Chuck Fletcher's, it has many people in his ears who are telling him what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually the guys who played the game who the owners look to and are like, yeah, that's the guy from the 80s and the 70s. You know, what's he saying? And the senior advisor team, like, maybe that's the areas they need to look at to revise.
Yeah.
And you can tell the podcast story.
But Bobby Clark famously, well, actually not famously enough, really, is kind of an explosive podcast that I feel like not a lot of people listen to. But he went on a show and just completely threw Ron Hextall under an entire depot of buses. Like just... He
didn't draft Cale Makar.
He didn't draft Cale Makar when he could have, and he did this, and he did that, and he did that. Talking about how, just completely shitting on the job Ron Hextall did.
And it was funny because here's the interesting part. By the way, Paul Holmgren was the GM when the Flyers were actually good the last time. He was the guy that stepped out of the way for Ron Hextall, who in 2014, Ron Hextall took over. He was fired in 2018, and then Chuck Fletcher took over after that.
Right.
So,
okay.
So I want to be fair to Paul Holmgren, but Paul Holmgren's, as much as he was a part of the successes, he's now been a part of a decade of failure. So I think it's still fair. And when it came to the Bobby Clark interview, the thing that was interesting, and I think a lot of people, first off, love a good dunking. They love hearing this guy who used to play for me. Ron Hextall was Bobby Clark's goalie, right? When Bobby Clark was the GM of the Flyers.
They have a long history,
But
there's obviously hurt feelings.
They love a guy who dunks on another guy. Everybody does. It's entertainment. But when you get past the Bobby Clark's dropping the 1-2 on Ron Hextall, you go, wait a second. Bobby Clark, elevated position in the Philadelphia Flyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bobby Clark was a part of all these meetings, and Bobby Clark, in effect, in theory, being a 30-year member of their management, could have blocked all of these supposed bad decisions he's accusing Ron Hextall of making.
Yeah, and again, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should have done that, you should have done that. They want a yes man, and you got it, and you got your ass kicked.
Yep.
So what lesson are you going to learn from this, and how are you going to apply it to Danny Briere? I think the answer should be let him do his fucking job. And
if he's even qualified. We don't know that Danny Briere is qualified.
He's
no offense to Danny Briere, I don't know one way or the other.
He's
and he's also the
I know he's been working up to
He's
it.
not the GM yet. He's just the interim.
Interim GM, yeah. It's like how Dubas was interim GM, and then Lou came on, and then Dubas became GM.
Yes.
That's actually a little unusual,
Mhm.
now that I say it out loud. Danny Briere, I know, has been working up to it. I can't remember what his previous gig was. You got to let him do his job. The worst teams in the NHL are the most middling teams in the NHL. Don't let the people who make hockey decisions make hockey decisions.
So then if you're Paul Holmgren or Bobby Clark or any of the people that Jesse mentioned,
Dean Lombardi.
Dean Lombardi. Dean, that's another story we need to have, conversation we need to have. Okay, so you have all these people together, and that no, Dean Lombardi was the Mike. What happened? Like Dean Lombardi was the good and the bad in LA.
Oh yeah.
And it's not that, again, this is not about who they are as people, but
I was
you know,
just like, where did
No,
Dean come
he's
from?
on the senior advisor team in Philadelphia.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. He's one of the names I listed.
So what I would say is, okay, so we bring in this guy. Well, Danny Briere is a first-time general manager, owner of the team. What do you pay me for? If I'm not allowed to speak my mind, exercise my influence. This feels very Oilers pre-McDavid, and actually Oilers with current McDavid. A lot of ex-players hanging around. Ownership. I mean, Daryl Cates seems to be a little bit more of a fan of the 80s Oilers, but there was a lot of, like, at one point it was like Curry and Gretzky and Coffey and all these guys are all paid by the team to do, we're not sure, and the team's finding no success. At a certain point, you wonder, is the real GM here the 3 people or the 4 people that you mentioned? And it's just the other guy's just the public-facing person.
I'm skeptical what changes here.
That's what I mean.
And-
what changes
like-
if those guys are still here?
We're going to see, because, like, yeah, I think we all assume that they're making decisions. I don't know. Is Daniel Briere the type to go in there and just be a yes man?
I wouldn't think so.
No.
But he was also raised by that group of people who are, in the last 10 years, as we've seen, full of a lot of failure.
Well,
so if he came up in the failure system, how much of a chance does he have to succeed?
I think the reason I'm so hesitant to, like, just completely bash Chuck Fletcher today is
We're not bashing.
it. No, I know, but it almost feels like today in 2023 we owe Jim Benning a bit of an apology because nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing changed over there in Vancouver.
Oh, in fact, things got worse. No,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I said this earlier. Jim Benning in Vancouver knew where the bodies were buried. He knew how to keep his hands on the geysers before they popped up.
Yeah.
Jim Rutherford walked in there and was like, okay, we're going to make some changes. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all this stuff happened.
So it's a cautionary tale, I would say, for, like, I don't want to dampen anyone's enthusiasm because you never know. The Flyers might be great
Next year, could
after
be good.
this.
It's hockey.
Yeah,
Sure.
because they're not, like, completely devoid of talent, which a lot of bad teams are. They're not. But what has gone on with the Vancouver Canucks, who I think have more talent, should be a reason to be skeptical that this will even do anything.
Well, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, all the decision making and things we criticize Chuck Fletcher for, we should probably be giving Bob Clark as much criticism for, like, the decisions.
All of them.
You know, like it's last December they fired Alain Vigneault. You know, and that was not the GM's decision. You know, I assume that was everybody in the senior management team.
Hiring him might
Man,
have been a bad decision by those people.
You hear a lot of now that we're sort of getting into business and everything. But people tell you a lot of catchphrases like "fail fast."
Mhm.
Chuck Fletcher's great at that because, like, dude, he spent all his bullets. Like you mentioned, firing the coach, getting rid of all your draft picks,
Bringing in Torts.
Like he spent all his bullets. And then it's like, there's none of that. Do you feel lucky, punk? It's like, no, I heard 6 shots. You're out of bullets. So I think you're done here.
So my question to you guys is, okay, they feel like this today. They wake up this morning, they're like, it's Chuck's day.
It's Chuck's day.
Yeah. So then what about last Friday? We're all sitting in this room, waiting for the trade deadline. All of these things, aside from JVR not getting traded and maybe a disastrous season ticket meeting, all of these things were apparent then. James Van Riemsdyk moving for a 4th round pick at 50% retained doesn't change the
I
situation.
really think the media storm the last 8 days that it's been leading up to the trade deadline and post that has pushed things.
Yep.
I think 100% everybody talking about what a disaster it was, and then you go up in front of people and they yell at you that it's been a disaster and you're an embarrassment. I think that pushes things and that kicks the firing up. You know, you get fired a little earlier because of that stuff.
It does, I've criticized some of the things he's put out there, but Cam Sharon has talked about, like, do executives in the NHL watch hockey?
Not
And
really.
I think it's a good question.
Not really.
It's a question worth asking. And
Certainly, you wonder if the TV network executive watch or the head office executives watch hockey. You wonder.
Gary and Bill, and they're working.
They're at the game.
They're working.
You ever sat at home, though, and tried to watch it? It's hard.
It's, well, you got to, anyway, where I'm going with this is you shouldn't have needed to be booed to your face. You should have known. You didn't know fans felt this way. Like, that's what did it.
And
That's what pushed it over the edge.
And the thing about Philadelphia is they're so shy about their feelings.
Right? Like, you couldn't have possibly, if you were paying even the least bit attention.
I don't think they were. I think
They never turned on Philly sports radio one time.
There was also the moment where the Rangers won was it shootout or OT? And
I think it was OT.
I think it was OT, and half the building is Rangers fans, and they're all cheering for New York in the Wells Fargo Center, and like those moments are the moments that management notices, not the fucking day to day. Your defenseman sucks, they don't see those things. They're not watching.
Nobody called into chicken shit in the broom or whatever that show was that was talking about
chicken shit in the broom,
like whatever afternoon radio fucking program in Philly. Like, I don't know.
What?
Like, they always have those weird fucking names and stuff. Like, they called him the broom because he was a part of the sweep. Get the broom out.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean? It's like they never one time saw a clip on Instagram of those guys or anything.
Oh god,
nothing.
no.
Chicken shit in the
Whatever.
broom.
I don't know. It's just
There it is.
You know what it is.
Coos and Tunis. Tell
me you remember that
Coos
name.
and Tunis was the morning show, and the Anthony Gargano show was the afternoon one that railed on us for.
Oh, that was funny though.
Cameron!
What the fuck, Cameron?
Being
Jesse,
a podcast.
please give it to me.
No.
What do you mean, no?
We got too far away.
Give me what I want!
Cameron never called in. He never emailed us.
No, he never reached out.
You know what? I expected. I thought Cameron would come on and be a good sport about it, but he wasn't.
Wow.
Adam, to your point,
coward.
I don't think anybody there is listening to 97.5 The Fanatic.
Well, they're missing out. They're missing out on a radio station that obviously has at least 2 to 3 share in the market. Maybe even 2.5.
Hey, I will not have you dumping on chicken shit in the room. Oh my god, I'm gonna be thinking
Listen,
about that.
I'm in radio. I'm allowed to make fun of radio's stupid names. We have stupid names. Yeah. Stupid. I think at the end of the day, in Philadelphia, the problem will persist, and that's I think we're all sort of coming at it from different points of view here. Well, of course, you hope it doesn't. Philadelphia,
that's a great franchise.
Mm-hmm. Philadelphia as a great market, is a great market and is way better when they're winning. Way better. I loved watching Chicago, Philadelphia in the finals.
That was pretty good.
And the rivalries there, and when Eric came on, he was talking about what it's like to play Eric Lindros. That is, what it's like to play in Philadelphia.
Oh, the Big E.
The Big E,
as we call him.
Had that late '90s Philly team probably had a little more depth and had a really good goalie. Mm. That team's a Stanley Cup winner. And
they got Cujo?
Yeah. That's a crazy story.
Oh, man.
You got to if you've not listened to our interview with Eric Lindros from like a week ago, he's unbelievable.
It's so good.
He's unbelievable.
How does the face of hockey history change if the Flyers get Bork and Cujo?
Nuts.
They win at least a cup.
It's wild.
At least a cup.
Wild.
Yeah.
I think that there is there should be, if you're a Philadelphia Flyers fan, you should have the same apprehension that we did when Shanny took over in Toronto. And when Shanny took over in Toronto, I want to set this up. Shanny took over in Toronto, and the first thing he did was he suspended Nazem Kadri for showing up to practice late, which was overdue. Remember that?
And it helped.
It helped
Leafs
Kadri
get the last pick.
Helped
and
the- yeah.
Also, yeah, helped. Kadri.
He also kept JVR out of the lineup, and then we were like, "There's gonna be change," and there wasn't change.
It took a while.
What had happened? Well, the Leafs tried to sign Dave Bolin, and they offered him 5 years and $5 million a season under Shanny's watch. And the only reason the Leafs didn't get him was because Florida said, "Fine, we'll do 5 years at $5.5 million per year." So he went to Florida and stunk. And
one of the first things he did was extend Randy Carlyle.
well, and that was the next thing I was going to get to is he extended Randy Carlyle because he didn't want the team to think, "Oh, if we just play shitty for a coach, we can get him fired."
Yeah.
No, you're stuck with this fucking guy. Right? That was the whole thinking. But at the time, we didn't know that. We're like, man, he re-signed the coach that clearly stinks. This team sucks. And you wanted to retain a center that is absolutely not worth it.
If you want to find my video talking about that extension, it's the one where in the thumbnail I'm drinking whiskey out the bottle. Because I was just like, oh my God, this team's going to continue to suck.
Well, and so it took a long time to turn it around. And I think in Philly, it's not as though the Toronto Maple Leafs team back then was void of talent. It's just that Philadelphia is in the same spot where you got a lot of contracts that don't sort of fit together.
Some similarities actually in terms of like roster construction.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't really have a number one center, but you have guys who are fine.
Mm-hmm.
You have a couple
A lot of money on the
guys.
wings.
Tough.
Couple overpaid defensemen.
Goaltending is a bit spotty.
No real star.
There is no... Who is like when you look at that Flyers roster, who's a Flyer for life on that roster?
I mean, like Kevin Hayes should be. And it sounds like he's gone at like first opportunity.
And they've been wanting to trade Travis Konechny for some reason.
Or not. Or like, I don't have a clear answer there. Like, you cannot trade Rasmus Ristolainen. You could probably trade Tony DeAngelo, but I think they like him.
Carter Hart's got to be it, right?
But I mean, who's the player? And what I mean by that is Flyer for life was like, who are you building that around?
Right.
When I look at the Montreal Canadiens, who are a team squarely on the rebuild, but on their way up, it's Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. Those guys, it's like, if you had your way, those guys are Habs for life.
It's funny.
And you build a team around them.
You don't even mention the number one overall pick, you know?
Because he hasn't earned it yet.
Sure.
No. And he might.
He might, but he hasn't earned it yet.
Yeah. But there's no generational star on the Flyers right now. And that's why what they've done in the last 4 years under Chuck Fletcher has been so egregious because they haven't bought him out to go get that guy.
And what's been odd is that despite all of those facts being very clear to people, they go into every season with extremely high expectations. The last Alain Vigneault season, they were expecting that 2020 season was the real deal.
I thought it was. I was investing in Flyer stock, and they were butt. They were butt, man. I wonder about, and this applies to the Flyers, I wonder what kind of flurry of activity we're going to see after the draft lottery. Because it's going to be a seismic shift. There's all these teams who are desperately hoping this fucking kid shows up, right? And if you're the Flyers and you land on the first overall pick, everything's great.
What if they do it?
What if they do it? But what if they don't? I think there's a lot of teams right now, like just sign of the cross, hope and a prayer. And if they don't get one of those top 3 picks, because there's more guys than Bedard, but if they don't get one of those top 3 picks, they're like, uh-oh, we're fucked, and we have to do a
well. And if you don't
stuff.
get Bedard, you need to be in that top 5 of the draft for a couple years in a row, no matter what.
Getting Fantilli and that would be a nice consolation, you know?
Yeah, maybe Michkov. I keep hearing not great things.
But like the
Other
Bedard
guys.
thing is
It's just a different
else.
level,
Yeah.
right? Remember the McDavid year where it was like, if you fall into a draft 1 position or draft 2 position, we're pretty sure that you're going to end up with a guy who you don't need to continue to be shitty for a couple more years after, right?
Eichel.
Right. You had McDavid, you had Eichel. I'm not sure how you would rate the return on that, but McDavid's pretty clear. The Leafs had to be bad for Nylander, and then they were bad and they got Martyr, and then finally so bad they got Matthews.
Because they weren't bad enough.
They weren't bad enough. So I'm looking at let's expand beyond the Flyers here. How many teams are like, we just get Bedard? Think about this. You got Philly for sure. Because if Philly ends up with Fantilli, that's great, but they're going to have to be bad for a little bit longer. Intentionally bad, though, which is better than being mistakenly bad.
Sure.
Arizona.
Oh, God. I really hope that doesn't happen.
What happens if Arizona misses on Bedard?
Then there's another player you don't have to pay rookie bonuses to.
I think nothing changes if they don't get Bedard.
Well,
and if they do get Bedard, I think nothing changes, which is a shame for him.
I think best case scenario for the Coyotes is something similar to what happened to the Leafs, where you're not quite bad enough. And so you get these high picks, but not the first pick, but then you keep them away from the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, because they've already sort of done that with Logan Cooley.
Yeah.
And then if they're shit for one more year, no, it's Bedard. Bedard changes everything for everyone.
Well, who else? Who else is in that? Columbus. Let's say Columbus. Columbus with Bedard versus Columbus without Bedard.
See, that's kind of interesting because you give Bedard a guy like Line
and Gaudreau.
Boy, that list that really drops off fast.
It's like Boone Jenner.
Like as
who
the
else?
center.
Yeah. Like, no, but if Bedard is on that team, I mean, they're certainly better, but if he's not, they're still kind of depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, think about it. If Fantilli or whoever else you want to bring up ends up on that team, you're like, well, that doesn't change much for now.
No.
That's going to take 3 or 4 years to change. Who else is in that conversation? Anaheim. Anaheim's in that conversation.
Oh, and then you
get Bedard.
Zegras and Drysdale.
Wow. You don't get him. You're just as depressing and shitty as you were this year. There's a lot of teams hanging a lot on this draft. On this one guy. So here's what's going to be interesting with the Flyers, guys. What will be interesting is the next 18 months. Because there will be some moves at the draft. And whoever's the GM, whether it's Danny Briere or it's somebody else who takes care of or takes over for Danny Briere, the moves at the draft will be easy. And people will tweet us and they'll be like, wow, see, the Flyers are turning a corner. And, the Flyers will start next October. And because we've talked about it like this, they'll go, they'll win 7 games in 10. And people will be like, see, you guys are idiots. You don't know. They turned it around quickly.
The Flyers had a great start to this year.
It's almost as though that happens every year with shit
They go on
teams.
like an annual 10-game win streak.
Yeah. I'm telling you this. We will not know whether or not ownership has backed off for another 18 months. Mm-hmm. This is a trend, and it's going to take a long time to figure out. And it's very difficult for the Flyers to make a bad move because their moves have been so bad that you almost don't have a choice but to make a good move.
What will be their Travis Hamonic move where everyone goes, oh, phew, they're smart now.
Exactly.
Now, here's a little bit of optimism, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you should be optimistic.
Yeah, sure.
Change.
Because it's just a good way to live your life. But also, if the Flyers are going to be doing something this offseason and at the draft and everything, Danny Briere likely would have been a big part of laying the groundwork for all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Likely. We don't know that for sure, but we can reasonably assume the assistant to the general manager or whatever Dwight Schrute role they gave him.
Special advisor. We can reasonably assume he would have been in the conversations. He probably would have spoken to a GM or an assistant GM or two. So the work the Flyers front office put in over the last little while, however unsuccessful, will at least carry forward. Like, he's not starting from nothing, right? He's not making phone calls today going, hello, it's Danny, right? There's at least some hope that if you thought they were working on something cool, that cool thing might still happen. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying for you.
And by the way, Rangers fans, you're allowed to gloat, but not that much. Okay?
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Why?
Because the Rangers fans that I follow, who are all really great, by the way, really nice people, are gloating, are just loving this. Absolutely loving this. And all I want to say is, guys, you know how hockey works. Let's not tempt the hockey gods. You have a fantastic shot at the Stanley Cup. Let's just be happy about that.
they will not be nice to you when you stink. So live it up. Live it up.
That's true. Fair enough.
Fuck them.
Oh yeah, no. Celebrate your victories. Fuck that.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing, just to wrap up on Daniel Briere, Comcast, who owns the Flyers, bought the Maine Mariners. I think they were somewhere else, and they moved them to Maine. And now they're the Maine Mariners. They play in the ECHL team.
The hockey team, yep.
Yeah. Yes. So the ECHL Maine Mariners, Daniel Briere was running that team from 2018 until he was special advisor.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Ownership has been training this guy to run a hockey team. And he's worked his way up. He started at the ECHL. There is a track record here of Daniel Briere doing the work here. It's not like he became head of player safety and then friends with everybody in ownership in the league,
right?
And then got to be GM. That's not how that worked with Daniel Briere. He started running a hockey team and it did that for a couple of years, and then was special assistant, and now he's GM. So I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic for Flyers fans here because of who's in charge.
Here's the problem I have with that, which is he's put in the work. But he didn't put in the work anywhere. He put in the work for them.
Within this organization.
So when you come up in the loser organization run by loser mentality.
Whoa!
What choice? Listen, Danny Briere is a really smart guy.
Yes.
He is. There's no question. But does he have the political capital in the back rooms to go against the four guys that have been there for several decades when it comes down to player personnel decisions?
Can you look at the best player in franchise history and be like, no, I don't want to do that, and get Rasmus Ristolainen?
You need to be able to.
You know, if Wayne Gretzky is in Edmonton and you tell him, no, I don't want to do that contract, but Wayne Gretzky wants this guy on the roster. You go to any of these teams, like you bring in the best player and you have him as an advisor, that guy's going to have sway. And Bob Clark, unfortunately, or fortunately, how you look at it, has sway there.
I'm going to go with unfortunately. And like, dude, you being the best Flyer ever, arguably, right? Or certainly one of them.
Embodies what a Flyer should be.
It's got absolutely, a borderline criminal. It doesn't, your success on the ice has nothing to do with how you're going to be in the front office.
Bob Clark would tell you, hey, well, listen, under my watch, we went to the finals in the 90s. We went to the finals in 2010.
And
been to some Eastern Conference finals.
The old guys who are billionaires love looking at the player who they watched growing up and saying, what does that guy think?
Yeah. By the way, what I'm referring to is the Flyers like routinely 3-on-1 beating the shit out of everybody.
Oh yeah, borderline
criminals.
Like on ice criminals, not on ice criminals.
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
I think people know what you meant.
We're at the age where everyone we watched growing up is running everything.
Yeah.
Luc Robitaille, Rob Blake, Danny Briere, Martin St. Louis,
Mark Bergevin. We watched Mark Bergevin play hockey.
Briefly. Brendan Shanahan.
Oh, Shanahan, yeah. Jason Spezza is now part of management.
With his little pencil.
and probably in the next couple of years, Wayne Simmons with the Leafs as well.
Yeah.
The expectation is he's going to join management too.
Oh, so I'm looking forward to the Spets Wayne front office.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Steve.
Yes.
If we're looking for reasons why the Flyers do things, you own a hockey team. The Toronto Maple Laughs. You own them. You bring in Felix Potvin to be a special advisor.
Goalie coach.
Are you not going to take some whatever Felix says and you're going to make decisions based on that and tell the people who are actually in charge to do things because Felix said something in your ear?
Listen. Did you see how cool his mask was?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like,
it's not comparable.
You need to let the smart people do the thing.
Well, and I wonder if some of these guys even get interviewed, right? Like, what's the interview for a former, like a legend of a franchise with the owner? Hey, man, do you know stuff about hockey? Tell me more about the 93 finals against the LA Kings, Felix Potvin.
Tell me old stories.
What's so weird?
You know what? The owner should just hire somebody and be like, just be the story guy. Be my story guy. You are official story guy.
The more I learn about like people in hockey and the more I like come to know people in hockey and how they operate and what their day-to-day lives are, the more I'm surprised by how people run hockey teams. Because you would think that their contact list has like a limit of 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not how it works. Like they speak to an unbelievable amount of people. They have a huge number of opinions on how hockey should be run, a surprisingly diverse set of opinions, and same shit happens year in and year out.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
So it'll be, Philadelphia will be very interesting to watch. Very, very interesting to watch.
Steve, it's hard to stick to working out.
Yeah.
Would you found that like having your Peloton makes it easier to stick to working out?
It makes it hard to stop, is what it does.
Because you just keep going?
I'm on it. Like, and even when I'm not on it, I feel like I am.
What are your favorite classes that the instructors have?
I do like the instructor classes because they keep you honest. But sometimes what I actually prefer to do is I like to ride like through the countryside. So you don't have to have an instructor class. You can just listen to music and like go through the Scottish Highlands,
Which is nice.
You can like go in the tropics. You can go in the desert. You can go wherever you want with Peloton.
And you have a Peloton bike. We all know Peloton has bikes, but they're much more than that. They also make treadmills and have a ton of other classes like yoga, strength training, HIIT, and boxing.
High intensity interval training. That's what HIIT means.
So you can try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only, not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.ca/home-trial. That is onepeloton.ca/home-trial.
I'm exhausted.
It's March Mania at Sports Interaction.
Wow.
NHL, NBA, March Madness, MLB, so much more. It's bananas. BANANAS.
That was good spelling.
Thank you. Play Pinata Picks and Minute Madness exclusive games with insane odds you can't play anywhere else. Make your next bet at Sports Interaction. Download the app in Ontario. Use the QR code at the bottom of the screen. Or head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN to get started. It's 18 plus. Please play responsibly. I want to do a quick shout out. I told you on Wednesday that I was going to the launch for Alphabet Collective, something that Brock McGillis and many other people, several members of SDPN, including Sam Chang from Game Over Vancouver, are deeply involved in this. And I wanted to give them a huge shout out because, last night they had a big sort of launch party at the Drake, and you had major media members from both Sportsnet and TSN there. Pierre LeBrun had an amazing speech. Brock McGillis himself had Pierre LeBrun came up and he was in tears and he was so touching, like amazing. But what was incredible about this group is that, it's obviously, we were talking about this with the Pride jersey issue raising its head again with Minnesota. And I told you, it's got to be groups outside of the organizations that are going to make this change. And I hope you lend them a follow at ABCS Collective on Twitter. They are an organization that I would pay close attention to. And they've just got the right people involved. And it was amazing because they did all of this amazing inspirational kind of speaking. And then they talked about what the organization is going to be about, which is obviously about creating space for everybody in hockey, which, walking into a dressing room, no matter where you're from and what your sexual orientation is or what your gender is, you should feel comfortable. That's a pretty basic goal. That's what they're trying to achieve. And it was amazing. Some Leafs were there, some former Leafs, some current Leafs, like Ryan O'Reilly was there, Curtis Gabriel was there, Mark Frazier was there.
Excellent.
And I think it was David Amber was there, Elliot Friedman's there. And I just thought it was an amazing thing, and I wanted to give them a quick shout out on the show because I'm really excited for what they have coming up in the future and follow along with them and see what's going on. I want to move forward to something else that is a bit of a bug in this studio. And Jesse, I sent you a clip, and this happened in Toronto, so you can be forgiven if you're from outside of Toronto and you don't pay attention to the NBA. But this made it all the way to First Take with Stephen A. Smith, so I figured it was a big story.
Oh, wow. And did he dismiss it outright?
I sent it over text. Do you want me to email? And it's Fred VanVleet, who's been a guard here in Toronto, point guard, for a long time. I'm going to send it to your email as well.
No, you did not text it.
I didn't text it to you.
No.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. I meant to. Okay. So, Jesse, I meant to. So how come you can't just pull it?
I got a nice picture of garbage cans.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. That's good.
Those are nice
good.
garbage cans.
Yep.
So here's the long and the short of it is Fred VanVleet has a bit of an issue with the way the NBA officiates games.
One guy in particular.
Yes, who he feels maybe is unfairly targeting the Raptors. And I'm going to let him sort of take it away here when Jesse cues it up. But what I respect the most about this is when he talks about, I'll take the fine, I don't care. Because, when NHL players talk about it, the most we've got, and I respect Sidney Crosby for this, is they asked him about the officiating, and he said, can I even say anything?
Which is saying something.
Which is like, I can't say anything because I'm going to get fined. But like Fred VanVleet doesn't care about the fine that they leveled at him, which, by the way, was $30,000.
Well, and Marcus Smart, who's on the Celtics, was asked about Fred VanVleet's comments. And Smart, he cleverly endorsed the comments without like officially endorsing them.
What did he say?
But it's like, well, he was basically like, I'll just let my man Fred VanVleet talk instead. But he's endorsing something that Fred VanVleet got fined for. What if everyone just endorsed what Fred VanVleet said? Anyway, here's what he said.
So here we go.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight. I thought that most nights, a couple of the, out of the three, there's one or two that just fucked the game up. And it's been like that a couple games in a row. Denver was tough, obviously. You come out tonight, you're competing pretty hard. The third quarter, I get a bullshit tech, changes the whole dynamic of the game, changes the whole flow of the game. And, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs are trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be dicks and just kind of fucks the game up. Nobody's coming to see that shit. They come to see the players. And I think we're losing a little bit of the fabric of what the NBA is and was, and it's been disappointing this season. You could look up most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal, and it's never a good place to be. That's not why we lost tonight. We got outplayed, but it definitely makes it tougher to overcome.
See, what I like is that
it's important to add that.
He takes responsibility for why they lost. Mm-hmm. But he also says, listen, this feels a little bit... And the day before, Scotty Barnes had been kicked out on a bullshit technical as well. So the Raptors are kind of sick of this shit. And one of the things that we've seen in baseball with Angel Hernandez, we've seen it a little bit with Wes McCauley in the NHL, is these refs, for better or for worse, in Angel's case, for worse, in Wes McCauley's case, in some sectors of hockey fandom, for the better, where the refs become the story. And I think that we need... I want to see something like that in the NHL. I want to see... And Fred VanVleet is a star in Toronto. He's not... he's a good player, but I wouldn't say he's like a superstar. He's not LeBron. He's not... But he's a guy that people really respect around the league. He's probably the best player on the Raptors. And he is saying, this guy fucking sucked. And I'll take the fine. I don't care. Now, why can't we get something like that in the NHL? And when will it happen? Because I feel like it's a when.
I will add that it is personal. So he said, you can look it up. Most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So Kirthika Yu, who on Twitter, who's with TSN, said, I looked it up. This season, Ben Taylor has officiated in 6 games that Fred VanVleet has played in. VanVleet has received a tech in 4 of those 6 games, including 2 on November 30th. Taylor has directly called him for a tech in 3 of the 6 games. So Fred VanVleet is getting teched in half of Ben Taylor's games. That's wild. That's absolutely wild.
Because a foul's normal. A tech?
Yeah. I think in both leagues, in the NBA and the NHL, there's an officiating problem with officials getting in the way of the game and making their decisions affect the outcome of the game. I think in both leagues, it's become egregious because of the amount of cameras and television that we all can see all the games all the time because of platforms like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, and these moments can go viral. That now we can see that these officials are getting in the way. And it's a problem because they're letting their personal feelings ruin these games.
Scotty Barnes in a one basket game in the final 30 seconds was wild. The Jordan Poole one. Did you see the Jordan Poole one?
No, I missed it. What happened?
Passed the ball to the ref. And it was like slightly off target, but like it still bounced and the ref caught it and boop. right away. Tech.
In the
There's nothing he can
NHL,
do.
it is absolutely ridiculous every time there's like a makeup call to balance the game, and they think they're game managers instead of just calling their rules on the ice. It's crazy how all the time power plays and penalty kills always try to sort of even up for the teams.
Man, isn't that strange?
So in every game, they're just about equal. Weird.
Right. And then in the NBA, you have cases of certain players getting certain calls and instances because a foul is not a foul. It depends on what name is on the back of your jersey. It might be a different foul in that case, or depending on the time of the game. You know, a foul in the middle of the first quarter isn't a foul in the fourth quarter. You know, those crazy instances. Go ahead.
So I brought that up in my Dang It's video yesterday about Carlson and what happened to Erik Karlsson this
when
week.
he didn't get a high sticking call.
He should have. It should have been a double minor, right?
Yeah.
So, but
That was crazy, by the way. I get why he threw his helmet.
of course. But you can review double minors that are called. You can't review the ones that aren't called,
Right. And you can only downgrade a double minor to a minor.
which is
You
bananas.
can't take the penalty away.
Which is stupid. I don't know why you would do that. But with Carlson, so you talk about veteran players. Let's just say LeBron James, like, tend to get all the calls, right? Who should be getting the calls more than Erik Karlsson? Like, a guy who's been in the league forever. He's going to be one of the front runners for the Norris. He's won the Norris. He, I think, has worn a letter consistently, whatever team he's been on, for the better part of a decade. And he doesn't get that call. Like, he's the puck carrier. And he took a stick to the face from Alex Newhook. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It'd be different too if there was some sort of accountability from the referees in cases like those where it's literally we all watched on our 4K televisions that he high sticked him in the face. He is bleeding. We all know you screwed up the call. And we get absolutely nothing in the end. Like, there's no, hey, we're going to make this better in the end. Hey, I wasn't looking at the play. I missed it. We all missed it. The officials on the ice. Nothing. We just got to move. We just all got to throw our hands up and move on.
And the NBA has the 2-minute report and everything, but that has flaws too. Are you going to say what I'm saying?
No, go ahead.
No, the tech on Scotty Barnes.
The guy wrote like a paragraph.
The 2-minute report came back, and like the only foul that they made a mistake on was going to go against the Raptors, or should have gone against the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they just
because
brutal.
The 2-minute report helps when there's things like if there was an equivalent to the high sticking in the NBA, that they can just be like, oh, we missed it, sorry.
Whoops.
But when throughout the game they're just calling fouls and giving out texts because of whatever reason, if it's a personal vendetta, they don't like the guy. This guy was talking a lot during the game, so we're trying to calm him down. We'll give him a couple fouls, send him to the bench, like those sorts of things. Those aren't in the 2-minute report. Those personal beasts that these guys have.
Right.
I just want referees to stop injecting their personalities into the game. Nobody cares about you. Like, the game's not about you at all.
Except for your family. No one
Call
cares. You know what I'm tired of?
Yeah, and sorry, just to backtrack, nobody cares about you. I'm talking about the
I think
fans.
we know.
Okay.
We know.
Just before people get mad at me.
And if people do get mad at you, then they're fucking, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
If you got mad at him for that, I have to ask you, are you fucking
your
serious?
family cares about you. You're very loved, referees.
Well, but that's the problem.
People love you.
Here's the problem that I find, and I'm seeing this on TV.
I'm sure your parents love you.
When there is even the slightest bit of criticism, people will come back and they'll say, oh, well, he's working hard. It's a hard job.
God.
It's a hard
So
job.
is Fred. So is Fred.
Fred scored 20 points in the NBA.
You know what? I heard this once. You know what? I feel bad. Their family's watching.
What?
Yes, somebody said that. There was a light criticism of the ref. They go to break. They do a period. They come back and they go, I feel bad about it. I feel bad about that. That guy's family's watch. He's working hard. I'm sorry. Do you think that what we do on this show is easy? Do you think that a guy fucking hanging off the side of a building cleaning windows, do you think that's easy? Do you think that whatever job you want, there is shit that is difficult to do, right? Mm-hmm. And if you do a bad job, you're going to be criticized for it. If the guy who's hanging 30 stories up misses a few spots and leaves dirt there, the company that paid him to do it's going to be like, hey, man, not good enough. Oh, he's got a family. He's got a family. They might find out that we criticize
We
them.
need to be able to criticize people.
And we need to be able to, if the refs are going to assert themselves in the game, then you
Right.
should be interviewed. Not just the 2-minute report. You need, the press deserves to get the ref in front of the camera and hold them accountable.
Yeah, or at least release something.
You know how that would work in the NHL.
Well, I do.
You know,
but that's why I'm saying
head
at
office would be
least.
like, okay, here's what you're going to write. You're going to write this, not our fault, and not our fault, and fuck Canadian hockey teams. That's what they would say. That's what the NHL head office would be on the phone saying, here's what you're writing on every ref report. They would never admit responsibility. You need to get human beings in front of a camera. If they're going to be a part of the game, which they shouldn't be.
Also, why is Fred getting fined $30,000 for that? But like Daryl Sutter basically essentially implying that the NHL rigs games in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what he did. That's what he did. Why is there no fine for that?
David Quinn got $25,000.
Yeah, because he was
blowing a
because he was
gasket.
mean.
Yeah.
Because he was mean. But when you say it
Because he was right.
soft,
David
Fuck
Quinn-
you fucking suck is the quote.
He was 100%. His entire rant was completely justified, and it was fun to see him get ejected like a MLB umpire.
Yeah.
Like we rarely get that in hockey. We get the "you're out of here."
That's such a good point. So, okay. Listen, you shouldn't scream, fuck you, you fucking suck at people. Okay, fine. I understand that. You should not throw your helmet at people. Okay, fine. What about your role in this where you fucking fucked up?
Yeah.
Who even missed the call? What's the name of the official?
This is the
I don't even
problem.
know.
We
This is the
always
problem.
jump to the reaction to the bad call, and then we move on from the bad call.
Nobody. See, this is the problem with the NHL, though. They don't have to own their mistakes.
No.
If referees are going to be a part of the game, and they are, and you're going to make Wes McCauley, he's so goofy. He's a goofy guy.
You sure
If you're going to make him a star, and you're going to feature him at the All-Star game,
commercials.
come on, guys.
Yeah. Fighting. Oh, isn't that funny? It's about as funny as it was the last time. Come on, man.
It's a problem. It's a problem in baseball too with the strike zone. A lot of, especially Angel Hernandez. Although if you breathe on an ump in the wrong way in a baseball game, you're out of there. Like they don't do that at all. They don't handle that at all. Some of them do, but it's just I felt like
I think
Fred VanVleet deserves credit here because that what it does is reporters then go and ask other players from other teams, and even if the other player from the other team, like you mentioned, Marcus Smart, does not say anything, by not disagreeing with Fred, the implicit agreement means something. And that can affect what, guys? Change. There was a conversation, there were meetings about what Fred VanVleet said.
We'll see.
Do you think that the next time that guy refs a game, Fred VanVleet does not get attacked? You bet. Put money on that.
Or he doubles down as like, I'm invincible, I'm a referee, and nothing bad can ever happen to me because I have a special zebra shirt on and I'm free from criticism. Because I think that's how they look at it.
But also, if Fred doesn't get a tech the next time that guy officiates a Raptors game, he'll still have 4 techs in 7 games.
That's a lot, eh?
It's so many. Like, I would love that from scouting the refs because, and like, they already have an unbelievable amount of statistics.
The data they have
available.
is crazy.
Yeah, no, they do really well. But like, that's Fred bringing attention to, like, that's disproportionate.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be really interesting if there was an official out there who gives like a disproportionate amount of slashing calls to, I don't know, pick a player out of a hat, Blake Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that be interesting? We've seen it happen.
And we know certain refs don't like certain coaches. We know that.
Yeah, and
Certain
players.
coaches.
Yep.
Well, players. The wildest one, and I don't remember if anything came of it. Look up Alex Burrows, and was it something Auger?
Stephane Auger?
Or was it Francois Saint Laurent? Was it Stéphane Auger or Francois Saint Laurent? I can't remember. But basically, what happened is Burrows embellished the prior game, and the story, according to Burrows, is that official came up to him at the beginning of their next game, and he was like, "I'm gonna fuck you," and he got called 3 times. He got called 3 times that night.
I wish it was
and
a
then
better.
he said it.
I wish it was a better source than Alex Burrows.
Yeah.
I wish it could be anybody else.
It's like D'Angelo spearing Perry in the balls. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like either of you.
Yeah.
Why are NHL officials allowed to walk over to the dressing room and ask for a signed stick?
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly how it works.
I
but,
don't,
like,
I don't know if where his legs are
they have
walking,
signed
but
memorabilia. Like there are stories
yeah.
anyway
Mm-hmm.
that have been on. I mean, it was on 32 Thoughts. I'll just say it was on 32 Thoughts, where there was an official who had just an ocean of signed memorabilia, and the cheeky haha story is the official stored these things at, I think, their mother's house, and they sawed them off for tomato plants, which is a tremendously Italian story. But also, what the fuck do you have all that shit for?
Oh, yeah.
What? That's completely different than something like Jody Shelley fighting Ty Domi and then asking for a signed stick that Domi threw over the bench.
Well, it's like
That's hilarious,
or
by
a
the way.
prosecuting lawyer putting somebody in jail and then asking for their autograph because they're a famed serial killer.
What the hell?
Is it
Did
not?
that happen?
No, but that would be it's an
Adam.
extreme example. It is. It's the same fucking thing, guys.
That's such.
I don't know
How
if
is that not the same? Tell me how that's not the same.
It's not that it's not.
Why?
Same, Adam.
Why?
It's that I'll be like, it's like this, and then you go, it's like fucked up version of that.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I
What's
think
wrong with that?
it's because the stakes are a little lower.
I know, but I'm trying to make
I don't know why you had to raise the stakes to the nth degree.
I feel
and
like
include murder when we're just talking about hockey.
okay. Then he's a famed bank robber.
That's see,
Okay,
you're
how's
going,
that?
you're
Robber.
going to crime when we're just talking about a sport.
I was just thinking like how they got people are going to be, or the judge asking a criminal for an autograph.
You're obsessed with this crime.
I just
thing.
feel like it's a good one. I don't know.
The stakes are a little higher in your example. I think it's weird when it's like, oh, I'm supposed to call this thing fairly, but JT signed a stick for my kid.
Dude, can't happen. Can't happen.
These
Can't happen. Oh, come on. No, fuck you. Oh, come on. These guys have to be objective. Guaranteed, someone would hear criticism of that story. Oh, come on. No, fuck you. Fuck you. Come on.
no, they can still do their jobs.
Call it down the middle.
I don't know.
Call it down
We
the fucking
see they
middle.
don't call it down the middle ever.
Wait, How are you going to be expected to call something down the middle? You're getting signed memorabilia. What the fuck? Like, dude, as like an associate producer at Leafs TV, if I had walked up to the members of the Toronto Maple Leafs and asked them for autographs while doing my job,
You'd have been fired.
I'd be fired.
I'd
be fired on the spot.
When I was entertainment reporting, I went to that Suicide Squad junket.
Yeah.
And Will Smith and Cara Delevingne and Margot Robbie. If I'd asked any of them for an autograph,
Yeah.
they would have escorted me out of the building.
And so if I did that or if you did that, our boss would not only fire us, they'd be like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, you idiot.
Yeah,
You dumbass.
You get a tongue lashing first.
Yeah, you'd be no,
But it's
like,
cool for the NHL to do it.
but like at the core of you, like not even as a professional, they'd be like, are you fucking stupid that you would do that? Of course I have to fire you. I don't even feel bad that I have to fire you.
And you get it. Like, you understand now.
And I'd be like, well, shit. Yeah. No, yeah. What a fucking stupid thing I did. Like, and then you would explain that to your friends. Oh, how'd you get fired? Oh, I asked for an autograph. And they'd be like, what are you fucking stupid?
I asked Will Smith for his autograph after I had to interview him.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, you dumbass.
yeah. Like, I know I'm your friend and everything, but you're a fucking idiot. And refs are just allowed to do that.
No.
That's fucking crazy.
It's cool.
Have we all lost our
Oh
minds?
shucks. Oh shucks.
Oh shucks.
Can't believe those. The tomato plants.
Oh, we should maybe
I just
be able
had
to
all
ask a
these
few
sticks.
questions about that. That's crazy. That's nuts that refs are allowed to do that. Refs, linesmen, all of them.
Now, I'm not saying
You
refs
wait
aren't
till you-
allowed to hate players and aren't allowed to like other players. Like certain players are going to be shitty to deal with. Certain players are going to be nicer to deal with. That's just human beings and it's human behavior. You're never going to get that. And you'll never, ever get full objectivity from one person, which is why you have 4 of them on the ice. 4 of them.
2 linesmen, 2 refs. Right?
Yeah, and the linesmen could still call penalties, though, right? Certain penalties.
Certain
Yeah.
situations.
So I count them, right?
Yeah.
So you would think in that group you'd be able to get objectivity. And I don't know. I feel like the lack of accountability and the fact that you can, like, the memorabilia thing is wild.
Yeah.
That
Wild.
one's crazy.
We talk about it like occasionally every couple of months it comes up and it's like,
but
how?
There are certain things in hockey where I sometimes I sit back and you like, I know you guys are doing the same thing here where you're like, wait a second, but why? Like, we're telling a funny story about something that happened. Isn't that hilarious? And everybody goes, oh, ha, ha, ha.
No, the fuck it isn't.
No, it's like, what?
What?
Yeah, the Nona part of it is cute. It's funny.
Yeah.
But like
Yes.
the way that it happened is weird.
You shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
I have a Wayne Gretzky signed stick. Oh, when did you get it? While you were working?
1980s.
Yeah, it was Edmonton, Calgary.
It was a January
West
game.
Final.
And you openly admit that?
Yeah, he scored
What's the
3 goals
matter
that
with you?
game. Yeah.
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I got a Gretzky stick.
Buy one! Like, what the fuck? If you want it so bad, what are you doing? Anyway.
I think in that conversation, we let off the hook NFL and MLB officials. You guys are also bad.
Yeah.
Umpiring,
all bad.
awful. Robot umpires can't get here quick enough. One day, no more umpires calling balls and strikes. We need that. NFL referees, you guys take more things out of your hands, more replay review because you guys are bad.
One time, we're switching gears here. One time I was listening to 32 Thoughts, and Jeff Merrick made a point that was objectively true, but also, and I would say this to Jeff were he here, completely in a human way, not possible. Unless you're a mutant.
Oh, full
Where we're
objectivity?
going.
No, this
of
I said
course.
I'm switching gears here.
Yeah.
Going to a completely different story. We're moving off the refs. And it's very
Serial killers.
If you're Jeff, and Jeff is right when he made this point, by the way. Serial killers. No. Jeff said at this point, when they were talking about Nathan McKinnon's eating habits, and they were talking about Nikita Zadorov when he left Colorado, when he was talking that famous story that apparently Nathan McKinnon got upset about, but that, he's like, guys, save the chocolate bars for the off season. We're trying to win we're trying to win the cup here, right? Nathan, chill, man. Chocolate's not going to kill anyone.
He's right.
Well, I'm more saying Nathan about like getting upset about it.
Jeff Merrick said, listen, at this point, with all this money on the table, right? You got so much money on the table. And he made the point. It was like, it's not just you, but it's your kids and your grandkids. And if you manage your money well, their kids as well, that could benefit from this.
Yeah.
Why would you even have a beer in a regular season? Why wouldn't you just save that stuff for the off season or just not have it? And so I found it because, NHL players used to practice and then go get hammered at lunch 20, 25 years ago. That happened. Like Daryl Sittler will talk about that in the late 70s and early 80s. They go practice and then they go for a liquid lunch. Mm-hmm. Like he's been quoted in that. And I just think it's funny, given this quote. Connor Bedard's mom, Melanie, was interviewed for NHL.com, and she said this. I don't know if you saw this quote.
No.
He's never had fast food.
Good.
Ever?
She said he will at some point, but he hasn't eaten McDonald's or anything yet in his life. I think we all know when we eat well, how you feel, and what kind when we kind of go off the rails. I think he's just aware of that feeling. On game days, he'll eat chicken, rice, vegetable, shrimp, mashed yams, chicken, salmon. It's kind of a rotation.
No, that kid's going to be one of the greatest hockey players of all time. Fuck yeah.
Never had McDonald's.
Hell yeah, Connor Bedard.
And he's always doing forearm day. I love those Coach Chippy skits where he's doing the roller thing.
Man, I love Coach Chippy so much.
Yeah.
So funny. Doing the AAA haircut. Yeah. That guy's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I got to do the Puck Daddy podcast with him.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's
Hayden
funny,
and
man.
Jeremy.
He is funny.
Now, people need to stop looking at, he's so weird for not eating a strawberry or whatever. No, that kid's fucking dedicated. He's trying to make it the NHL and be one of the greatest hockey players ever.
Yeah.
Kudos. Give a pat on the back. High five.
But like if you're trying to be not the greatest athlete ever, then yeah, I mean, maybe you have a burger. It's fine. That's fine.
I like Wendy's.
I love Wendy's.
Yeah.
I love a good Wendy's. You know what I like, though?
Oh.
The most? Mitch's Dishes.
Wait!
Promo code Dangle. Promo code Dangle this weekend until Sunday night at midnight.
And you know what's funny?
What?
I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get Wendy's on the way home. But then I remembered tonight I have to play hockey against Jesse.
Oh, you better eat your yams and your rice.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm
Okay.
practicing?
Yeah.
Spearing Steve in the balls.
Spear me in the butt. Are you going to change handedness
I like coming from behind. Little
okay.
butt spear.
Okay, I don't know if you've noticed, you have a hard time sneaking up on people.
Hey, sneaky.
Hey.
Get a little of this.
Better watch your fucking ankles.
Mitch likes it. It's got to be good.
Watch
From
your,
that
I know you're vulnerable.
Oh, no.
Two-hander.
Hack the bone.
Before we do the press conference, I want to run you through something. It's a tweet from Mark Masters that just came out. Leafs lines at practice.
Fuck. Yeah, these are fucked.
Just one last thing to drive Steve and you guys crazy before we go to press conference. McCabe Brody. So Jake McCabe, TJ Brody.
Totally.
Mark Giordano, Timothy Liljegren.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Now, and these two guys are sitting on the outside. This might make you happy if you're not a Justin Hall apologist. Connor Timmins, Justin Hall.
Whoa.
But who does that leave?
Morgan Riley and...
Eric Gustafson.
What? What the fuck is that? What on earth is that?
Until Luke Shen gets here, it's that.
I would rather Hall. What the fuck? I mean, okay, I'll look at it, I guess. Against the Oilers?
Against McDavid.
Are you sure?
If those two are caught out against McDavid, the Leafs are in trouble.
Well,
Are you getting to that forward group too?
Well, I
the forward
can.
group is...
I mean, it's not great because you got everybody. Okay, is Alex Kerfoot snake bitten or is he just not a big goal scorer? Either way, he hasn't scored in 30 shots. Kerfoot, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Lafferty, Yarncroke, which we liked.
Except, I hope it was erroneously listed as Nylander on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I know he wants to play there. I hate it. I don't
Why
like
is he bad on the left? Why is he bad on
It's
the left?
not that he's bad. It's just I don't like it. I don't think it's his strength. I think he's great on the right.
Bunting, Tavares, Wayne Simmons,
What the fuck is that? The GTA line.
Zach Aston Reef, David Kampf, and Nola Chari, which is fine.
That's great. Sure. Good. And Alex Steves is the extra.
Now, that doesn't mean they stay that way, but the power play unit, Riley, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Gustafson, Yarncroke, Kerfoot, Liljegren switching in for each other, Lafferty and Bunting.
Okay.
So they have Gustafson playing with Gustafson and Riley playing with Riley. They are the same people and they're playing with each other.
Kind of.
Fullerman says Riley Gustafson is a paper mache cannon. That's so good.
Against the Oilers? I guess you're anticipating the game being 7-6 then.
Yeah, and you could make the point that that the Oilers are it's just practice lines. You could play whatever you want against the Oilers tomorrow.
It's also, this is experiment time. It's what, 17 games
I think
left?
something like 17, 18.
Fucking run it out. Just try and figure out game one what the lineup is.
Like, this is the thing. Like, this is such a weird time of year to be making videos for every game because, like, I don't know, if this roster that I would never put out there fails, I'll be like, well, yeah, of course it did. Then when I get mad is if they try it again. But even then, it's like, well, we just want to... I don't fucking know. I don't even know what to make of that funhouse mirror. That's the weirdest lineup the Leafs have iced in a long time.
But the try is okay.
I don't mind the try. But against
I guess.
McDavid, it's like, here's what I know. Here's what I know as a Leaf fan. I want the Leafs to beat the Oilers so bad because Edmonton Oilers fans are insufferable.
Oh, they're brutal.
When the Leafs lose to them.
As they should be.
And they should be, and we are insufferable when we beat them.
Yes.
So I want to be the insufferable one. Please.
Bunting Tavares Simmons is like a concerted effort to make the slowest possible line that the Leafs can make.
Throw that out there against Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman.
What the fuck are you doing?
Oh, God.
That's a weird one. I wonder if they go 11-7. Because, like, I know, like, the current mood is anti-Hall, but, like, he's had some success against the Oilers, too. That's weird. That's weird, man.
Let's do the press conference.
The Presser. SDP. The Steve Dangle Press Conference.
All right, quickly here. To head into the weekend, I need us to solve a Wheel of Fortune puzzle. Also, the Oilers were fucking fantastic versus the Bruins.
They won.
It wasn't even McDavid who did anything. It was the bottom six. Their offense, crazy deep right now. They are a lot of trouble. The Oilers could have a deep playoff run.
Ken Holland is pointing and laughing at everybody that ever criticized him.
Well,
Jesse's muttering under his breath.
doesn't make your moves retroactively good. All right, so let's all solve this Wheel of Fortune puzzle. Adam, if you could direct everybody who's listening to follow along.
So what we have here is a 3-word puzzle on Wheel of Fortune. And the category is food and drink. So the first word is FRE blank space. Okay. Then the second word is tropical. And the third word is fruit because they figured that out.
So spell it out for everybody listening. Solve this.
FREE. We need the last 2 words or letters of that. Tropical and fruit. FREE. Tropical and fruit. What could it be?
No, not E. 1 E.
Sorry, FRE blank space.
Yeah.
Tropical and fruit.
I'm going to go with freak tropical fruit.
French tropical fruit actually be the
Except
letter too many.
We know it's not freak because there's already an A. So
That's right.
Yeah.
it must be fresh.
Spin it but do something quickly.
I'll spin it.
So she just added an H.
Now,
And Pat Sajak is asking.
FRE blank space H is the word that you need to follow. Now, again, what word might you think goes in there?
I would assume fresh. Now, she can still spin, even though she knows what the word is, because she could potentially win some money. But she runs the risk of landing on bankrupt. Let's see what happens next.
Okay.
If she spins, she's going for a little bit more money.
Okay. What letter for you?
I'll go with a G.
Juliana, it's your turn.
Freak!
I'd like to solve the puzzle.
Tropical fruit!
Fresh tropical fruit.
Yeah. You know, when that happens and you're sitting at home, you're saying, how in the world can that? But, you know, sometimes it's a word that just doesn't want to come into focus for you. It did for you. And in addition to that $650, we're sending you to the island of Antigua. Listen to
God bless Pat Sajak for saving her
there
and
is a
making
bit.
her not look as bad.
I would
I know she's nervous.
I would change my identity.
Yeah.
I'd never speak to my friends or family ever again.
Like, you notice that they show her for a second on camera and they never show her again.
The producers and Pat and Van, they all know you got to focus on the winner and not the person who just royally fucked up their life.
Yes.
Dude, the winner like almost seemed like sorry.
And then there's like, and you're going to Antigua. Like you're getting a vacation. Like if she had just said frick, tropical fruit.
Like for the rest of her life, anytime anyone's like, hey, so I went on vacation recently. I went to Antigua. Yeah? How was fucking Antigua?
Or just when she's at the grocery store and she sees fruit.
Oh my God.
Hey, you want to go to No, that's okay. No, thanks.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
One more time.
You see fresh, the word fresh in the world so much.
solve it or spin it but do something quickly.
I'll spin it.
Okay. When she says G, listen, Jesse, you got to crank the volume. Listen really closely to the audience.
Okay, what letter for you?
I'll go with a G.
The woman who yells, what? I didn't catch that.
She goes, what? I changed my fucking name. That's brutal.
woman.
And you're so right.
no.
All the producers did the opposite of what so many TV producers would do these days, where they're like, "Oh dear, this
Save
poor
her,
girl.
save her, save her."
save her." No,
Yeah.
you know how many would be like, "Zoom in, make sure you see every pore on her face."
But these are guys who've been doing it for 40 years, you know?
And you don't dump on the losers.
Oh.
Right? There's some class in that show. I like that.
Yeah.
American Idol, man, they launched on making people feel like shit.
Dude, there's been a bunch of American Idol, like old American Idol clips, and I don't think that show would play today.
Never.
No.
Dude, it's cruel.
Well, if you watch Simon
it's
Cowell,
unnecessarily cruel.
if you watch Simon Cowell now, though, he's supportive of everybody on X Factor. Or is it X Factor? No, what is that? No, America's Got Talent.
Oh, right.
He's a judge for that, and he's like sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen." And when he was on Idol, like at the beginning, he was the guy that was known as like, "I'm gonna fucking put you in your place."
Yeah, but like, it's one thing if you have like a good singer who could be a great singer, and you take them down a peg. It's another where you're intentionally picking on people who, like, everyone knows fucking sucks.
And the producers would put them through on purpose.
Yeah, because
Yes!
that's when they're on TV, there's 3 steps they have to go to get there. It's a person picking this person out of the crowd to be like, okay, let's put them on TV so then that week they can be the laughingstock of America.
You know that Britney Spears documentary that sort of made us all look in the mirror and go, oh, that was kind of fucked up.
That was the era.
Like,
That
dude,
was the era.
Yeah.
That's the American Idol era.
Yep.
Yep.
That show was brutal.
TV's changed, like pop culture has changed quite a
lot.
bit since then.
A lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that video has 188,000 likes.
This is just one random Instagram that reposted it
Jesse,
too.
click refresh. 188,694. Click refresh. I want to know how many it's got during this conversation.
Couple hundred?
It got about 100.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, did they have to put her face in the thumbnail? That is. Oh,
I know she was on screen for about 3 seconds too. Oh man. Man.
I would move to the woods. You'd never see me again.
And then
I
there's
don't know
us.
what you guys would do.
Laughing.
Good luck with PN.
Because the SD would be gone.
The SD would be gone.
Well, we've already told you that it doesn't stand for Steve Dangle. It stands for Super Duper.
Okay, fine.
Super Duper Poopy Network.
Yeah.
Very
SDP
poopy.
stands for Steve Dangle Podcast. Not gonna be here anymore because I embarrassed myself on Wheel of Fortune and I moved to the woods.
Oh man.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.